Howdy, folks. We are back with another episode of Unfinished Business, where deep dive. And this week we are talking about the 1998 film Snake as the director and starring an unfinished business film, Nick Cage. My co-host, André Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
Here comes the pain, baby.
Okay. Oh, you're not lying. Directed by Brian Nation of a government official during a boxing match. The film takes place mostly in real time, as Nicolas Cage is a kind of two-bit detective who everybody knows is kind of deals with everybody and doing all these illegal deals. And his best friend is part of the security detail for this government official. And, you know, he's trying to help him get to the bottom of the assassination. And in the middle of it is a mysterious woman who they both are trying to figure out the identity of. There's a multiple intrigue involved in this film. But one of the main aspects that goes along with Brian De Palma is that the first 20 minutes is an uninterrupted steady cam shot that actually isn't fully 25 minutes. He does have hidden cheats in it. The longest take he actually did was 18 minutes. But, André, tell me about your history with the Snake Eyes movie. And not to be confused with the G.I. Joe one.
Well, that's the ironic part, because when I first heard about this movie, I thought it was going to be a G.I. Joe Snake Eyes movie. And we're not going to talk about what they actually did because it sucked. So, yeah, I was actually hyped up for this movie when it came out because I was like on that Nicolas Cage kick. I had just seen Con Air. I saw Face Off. And I was like, all right, here we go. He's going to play a cop in Atlantic City. He's going to solve this murder. Gary Sinise is like his pal. And, you know, this was going to be fun, you know. And Brian De Palma, he was coming off of Mission Impossible. So it's like, this movie cannot do no wrong. And I remember me and my cousin, we were in South Carolina that summer. And we went to like one of those really discount theaters where we were seeing all the movies like Spawn and Mortal Kombat and whatever else was out that year. So I was like so hyped up to see this movie that I didn't want to see Halloween H2O that same weekend. And I came out of it being like, I guess it was okay. I didn't really hate it, but over time, I gotta say, Brian De Palma's camera work is excellent. The cinematography is fantastic. The multiple point of views is cool with each character. And I love the soundtrack. It really has like that intense thriller kind of sound that a lot of his movies have. But there's a lot of problems with it. The twist comes way too quickly, and then there's no surprise.
Yes.
Nicolas Cage is clearly like, I guess there's a whole thing where he's on cocaine because he's a dirty cop, but it's just such an over-the-top performance. It was like the studio said, oh, we like what you did in Face Off. Continue to do that. Do that as your character. And he dialed it up to 11 to the point where it just was like, I'm not excited. You're just being a cartoon character. You're not like a serious cop I could get behind. And the third act, which you'll get into in a bit, was very rushed and didn't have quite the ending that I think a movie like that needed. It just was, I get the attention of what De Palma was trying to do, but the buildup, it came way too quickly in the film, and then it kind of just dropped off after that for me personally. So it's like there's a missing story here that doesn't work in the midst of this great camera work, great soundtrack, and all this action that's in there, and good, decent performances with the other actors, but something was missing clearly, and it could have been much better.
Well, I agree with everything you said. I remember hearing about this film in the trades, and originally Gary Sinise's role was supposed to be played by Will Smith, but Will Smith wanted too much money to play the supporting role. So then they got Gary Sinise. And one of the problems with Gary Sinise in this film is it has nothing to do with Gary Sinise as an actor, but he always looks guilty. So it's like no big shock when the twist comes that involves him. So that's A. I think the problem with this film is it's oddly timed. Yeah. Like, it should not have been made in 1998. This feels like a movie that might have been effective had it been made in the 1980s or 70s, you know, and a smaller scale. Mm-hmm. Because the way it was promoted, like, this was supposed to be a big blockbuster, but it's a big blockbuster that's more of a thriller than it is like an action movie, you know? So there's a lot of tracking shots. Oh, near misses, you know, him figuring out things, you know, and, you know, people want to see Cage, you know, whip some ass. And, you know, instead of, you know, for the most part, he gets his ass whooped throughout the movie. And I agree. But see, the whole thing with the whole coked up Cage thing, that works for his character. But strangely, it's only in the before and third act scenes. I find like when he's actually investigating, he's actually kind of focused unless he's like around a big political or big celebrity. Like when he's around the boxer, he's like, oh my God, you're Big Stan, blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, you're, you know, Trump stand-in, you know, at the time. But then when he's like, you know, focusing on the case with Carla Gugino's character, then it's like, oh, he remembered what movie he was in. You know, like, I'm supposed to be a detective, you know? And I remember the girl they use as a distraction. I remember when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh my God, she's so hot. Yeah. Then you see the movie and it's like, I thought what was an inventive thing in the script, which again is why it reminded me of the 70s and 80s, is Carla Gugino's character like losing her glasses and can't really see through most of the film. You know, kind of a throwback, but it works for her character getting into certain situations. Like I said, I mean, the other problem is, like you said, once the initial surprise is gone, anything after that just feels like not that shocking, you know? But I did like that at the end, everything that Gary Sinise told Nicolas Cage would happen actually did happen, you know? Mm-hmm. His reputation ruined, everybody left him. And as you were saying about the third act, it was rushed because originally the third act was supposed to be this hurricane they talk about through most of the film comes crashing in and floods the casino. And they actually filmed it, but it was so big budgeted and CGI. And the problem was it just looked fake, so that they decided to cut that out and just, you know, after it's all solved, you know, we have the Gary Sinise, again, spoiler for anybody who hasn't seen this movie by now, you know, his death scene. And then, you know, we like kind of fast forward to, oh, what's Nicolas Cage up to? And then being reunited with Carla Gugino. I think it was a missed opportunity for Carla Gugino because she is a very good actress. Yes. I think she's very good looking in this movie too. And it allows her to be smart and sexy. Yeah, he has an also, I think what doesn't work pretty much. I'm surprised. This is like one of the other than like Mission Impossible. This is one of the cleanest and non-sleaziest as far as sex goes for Brian De Palma. You know, because there's like no nudity. You know, I'm guessing because it's a studio film. Yeah. You know, and big budget. But it was also for a film that cost so much. It was. I mean, it tells such a small story that you're shocked they spent so much money in the cast, even though the biggest other name is Gary Sinise, you know? But I mean, it's Primo De Palma is just late stage De Palma, where it's like this and maybe Femme Fatale are both movies that I think if they were made earlier in his career, they would be more noteworthy. But since they were made at the time, it was like, now, instead of seeming like he's homaging Hitchcock, now it seems like he's homaging himself at this point. You know, and it's a shame because Brian De Palma is another one who's notorious, but doesn't really get credit as much as he used to, because for all the classic films that he's made, there's also been those big bombs that he's made that people still remember too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, I mean, Raising Cain has its fans. I'm not one of them, you know, but that is like when he's left to his own devices. Femme Fatale, which I saw in theaters, very disappointed, but it had, like you said, great cinematography, great camera work. Nobody can beat him there. It's just that, I mean, he hasn't made a film in a while, so
no, not any
it's
good
just
ones.
no, that it's been even longer. But you know, he's one of those guys. I'm glad they did a documentary on him, so you know you get the respect. You actually get to hear him comment on all of his movies, most of his movies. I ain't gonna say all, because some don't need to. I mean, really, do we need to talk about Mission to Mars? Yeah, exactly. But let me put it this way: Sinise is in it. But anyway, this movie, this was one of those movies I really just wanted to like, really wanted to like, but it's just so disappointing.
Do you think it would have been successful if instead of having Will Smith being considered for Gary Sinise's role, which was weird to begin with, if he had played Nicolas Cage's part? Because imagine like if he was trying to do like the Will Smith charm, but doing it kind of coked up, and then having that twist, I think that could have made it a success.
It would have been a success. I think it could have been a success. He would have had to have been older though, not like 1998 Will Smith.
Yeah,
maybe like 2003 Will Smith, maybe then. You know, I think like whichever year Bad Boys 2 came out,
that was 03.
That year he could have played that role. Okay, so I was close enough. But I think also the problem would have been, again, you're spending so much money on this movie where barely anything happens. So if anything, this would have had to have been a character study more than anything, you know?
Yeah,
but I mean, just having
Will
Smith in it, you know, in 2000. Go ahead.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, with Will Smith in it, it definitely would have made money. And I think maybe it would have been more well remembered because again, we've seen Nicolas Cage play coked up. We haven't seen Will Smith, you know, outside of that range, like playing coked up. You know, he can still put on a charm, but we've never seen him be kind of the sleazeball, scuzzy person, but still our likable hero. You know?
Yeah.
So that's why you also have to ask in 2003, would Will Smith have even taken that role?
Probably not. I mean, I would think he would do it now, but at that time, it was all like iRobot and I Am Legend, Hancock, where he was just trying to look good. Although, I mean, Hancock was the closest to him being kind of a drunk and a little bit of a drug addict, but it's still a superhero movie, so it doesn't really count that much.
Well, my question is, if he did play in Snake Eyes, would he have insisted on doing a song for the soundtrack to get him into character or be on brand? And
nah,
like it's the snake eyes.
He would have done it for Enemy of the State if that was the case. And I mean, they're kind of along the same lines.
Well, hey, that would have, that's the actually what he turned down Snake Eyes to go do was Enemy of the State. He made a better choice, you know, but I will admit if I was an actor at that time, I probably would have jumped at the chance to work with De Palma only because at the time he was a bigger name. But I am not going to lie. We all know I love Tony Scott too. But I probably would have more been impressed by Brian De Palma.
Well, yeah, I mean, every actor,
one's alive, one's dead now.
He said that every actor that would work with him wanted Scarface questions answered or would do Tony Montana impressions when they weren't shooting. So that was like the one reason like Bruce Willis and Tom Cruise would all agree to work with him was, they want to know more about that movie.
And believe it or not, I'm probably one of the few people who's like, you know what? I didn't read the book, but I like Bonfire of the Vanities, the movie. So
I don't hate it myself, even though I know it's flawed as hell.
Yeah, I'm like, when else am I going to see Tom Hanks play an upper crust prick? Who ends up being our hero.
And that deserves a remake as well. And I think Amazon's supposed to do a series, but that was like announced 2 years ago. I don't know if that's still happening.
I imagine if they do it, though, they're probably it'll be like Stephen King's The Shining, where it's like, we're sticking to the book.
Yeah, that's my impression with it. Maybe they'll keep it in the 80s, too.
I'd be like, hey, if they ever want to make a documentary on the book The Devil's Candy, though, I'm there for it.
Oh, yeah, that would be great. I would love to see that.
Or instead of like, since they're making this series about The Godfather, let's make a limited series about making a Bonfire of the Vanities.
That would be fun.
Exactly.
Put on HBO Max.
Well, Bruce Willis won't like it either way. Whoever gets to play him.
Well, he paid $3 million to shut up. He'll do it.
Or actually, he might be like, no, I'll play me. Give me $3 million. I'll show up and be myself.
Yeah, just de-age him. Make him look like he did in 1990.
I think he wouldn't even want to be de-aged. He's like, no, pure Willis now. Like, I don't need makeup. This movie, like I said, has again great just Nicolas Cage line delivery just for the line, "You got the snake eyes." I'm like, come on, who else could make that line work and be credible? I'm like, oh look, Nicolas Cage can be in bad films, he can be hammy, but I will never say Nicolas Cage gives a bad performance.
And this movie makes good use of Barry White's "Come On, Come On, Girl." I'm
like, this movie, well, probably, they are in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
So, I was expecting, like, there should have been, like, a show, like a musical show going on in the background for part of this movie to match up all these tracking shots where, we're following them follow Carla Gugino with the overweight married guy. And, they're all going in different directions. It was like, and Stan Shaw, again, playing a boxer, even though he looks a little too old to be a heavyweight champ, but hey, he got the work. More power to him, But like I said, it's fairly ridiculous movie. It's watchable, but I wouldn't say go out and hunt it down to watch it. But I mean, it's one of Nicolas Cage's better studio films.
Yes.
I'd rather watch this than Bangkok Dangerous. Let me put it to you that way. I'd rather watch this than Knowing too.
I would watch this more than Peggy Sue Got Married.
What is wrong? What is with the hate on Peggy Sue Got Married? Hey, he tried something different, okay? Had that voice, with the bouffant hair. And
if you want to cast somebody that voice, just cast Pee Wee Herman. He could have done it back then.
But he didn't have the sexiness.
He was a kid. He was like 21. He was already an adult by the time of Snake Eyes.
Hey, he was a kid in that. He was a kid in Moonstruck. He still got raised for that one.
Yeah, he looked a lot older in Moonstruck. I thought when he did Face Off, he was already like 50.
Damn. I didn't think he was that old. Jeez. I'm sure he thanks you for that. Just because he's Danny Aiello's brother, he's got to be that old. And he had one hand in the movie. Look, one day we have to do just a whole Nicolas Cage show. Maybe when his movie comes out where he plays himself.
Yeah, the Nicolas Cage retrospective. It's coming.
Oh, I cannot wait for that. Oh, Lord. Might have to have special guests for that one. But do you have anything else to say about the Snake Eyes from 1998?
Just that it had the potential to be a really great movie, and it just was a disappointment. And it sucks because I love Brian De Palma's work.
Yeah, it's, again, my main point with this is that I think there is a good movie at heart here, but it was blown so way out of proportion that there was no way you could make a passable film here. And so that ends this show for this week. But as you know, we always have unfinished business. So until next time, from here in the deep dive, we bid you adieu.